time to start switching up things from a weight loss point of view. Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning into this channel. If you like this content and you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. So as far as my carnivore weight loss history goes and my zero carb weight loss history, I've lost 150 pounds doing this carnivore way of eating and zero carb. About the last 90 pounds have been from carnivore alone. Before that, it was zero carb. So I was still having some like aspartame gum, some artificial sweeteners, and some vegetables, but zero carb vegetables. So now that I'm at this point where I've been plateaued with my weight for roughly about 8 months or so, I measure my lean mass with a bod pod. I'm going to be doing a video sometime soon. I know I've been saying that for a long time, but I'm actually coordinating right now on setting up a time with the woman who does these bod pod scans. I've also done DEXA scans as well, but I'm trying to stay away from those because they use x-rays and a lot of x-rays to do those scans. And I don't want that. You're not supposed to have those more than once every couple years. Something they failed to mention when I went there 4 times in 4 months. But these bod pod exams tell you your lean mass as well as your body fat percentage. So my lean mass has been pretty steady. I've been between 185 to 190. Last I checked, it was about 190 or so, 190 pounds of lean mass. So my goal has been to maintain or build my lean mass as I lose weight. Now my weight is plateaued. Now for the longest part of this carnivore journey, when I lost my 90 pounds, I wasn't paying attention at all to how much food I was getting. Well, I was monitoring it, but I could care less how much of it I was getting because I was doing really well with it. I lost 90 pounds and I was having way more than my body was telling me I needed. So cutting out carbs and sugars of all kinds and artificial sweeteners, I lost over 90 pounds. I wasn't paying attention to calories at all. And I noticed I started to slow down once I hit the 330 mark and then the 320 mark, and getting below 320 was something that was doable, but it was really starting to slow down. So I thought, okay, well, that's okay though, because I was putting on muscle at the time. I think I got up to just under or just over 195 pounds of lean mass. I still had a lot of fat to lose, but my goal is to maintain or build muscle as I do this challenge. My goal has been to maintain or build muscle as I lose my weight. So I don't want to lose 200 pounds at the expense of 50 or 75 pounds of lean mass. That's not good. So back in spring, I gave myself a 3-month challenge where I increased my fat closer to an 80-20 ratio. 80% of my calories coming from fat and 20% from protein. Now, what happened with that was I was also trying to lower my volume that I could handle at a time because I could easily eat 2 pounds at a sitting 3 or 4 times a day. Now, what happened from this challenge was my main goal was accomplished. I went down to 1 pound of ground beef at each meal, 3 meals a day, and a ½ pound of ground beef with snacks through the day. Now that's more of a bodybuilder style diet. I wasn't trying to keep to some keto ratio or anything like that. I was just trying to lower the volume of my stomach while I was doing some exercising. So I accomplished my goal. I cut back to 4 pounds a day of lean meat. Now, some people say, 4 pounds, what do you need 4 pounds for? My body requires, when I'm exercising, 4 pounds of lean meat a day for the amount of calories my body needs. I was getting 4,000 calories a day, just under 4,000 calories a day. And my body requires just under 4,000 calories a day. So I know what you're thinking. Well, of course you weren't losing weight, but keep in mind, I was getting 6,000 calories before while I was losing all this weight. I was always getting more calories than I needed while I was losing the weight. My goal with this channel has always been to keep or build my metabolic health, not go backwards with it. You start losing muscle and lean mass and you're starting to ruin your metabolism. So once I was at this 4 pounds of lean ground beef, a few weeks into it, I switched to a higher fat ground beef. So it was lower protein, higher fat, and that's a lot more calories, and I put on a lot of weight. So I eventually lost most of that weight, and I'm at the point where I could comfortably have 3 pounds of meat in a day, and I'm very satisfied. So that was a big thing. I think my stomach was just stretched out from being such a big guy for so long, and it just got smaller and smaller. Now, I'm sure there's still wiggle room for that to go even smaller, but here's the problem. My weight's still been pretty plateaued, even though I've lowered my protein and raised my fat. My overall calories were still rather high, and my weight has still been roughly plateaued at around this 325 mark. So earlier this year, I did try using a blood glucose monitor, and you know what? My blood sugar was really steady. When I was eating 2-3 times a day, my blood sugar would go up for the next hour, and then it would level off, and I really had very stable blood sugar, but I wasn't losing weight. Well, I thought really that's really the only thing you need to do is keep the stable blood sugar to keep the insulin managed. But there's more to it than that from a ketogenic point of view. So though I was adopting a bit of a ketogenic attitude towards carnivore, adding more fat into my diet, I just added extra fat onto my existing amount of food I was getting. So what I switched to was lower protein, higher fat. And my body lost weight really quick. I put on 23 pounds, but after a couple of weeks of that, I lost 10 pounds effortlessly. It was still too many protein calories. I was down to about 185 to 190 grams of protein in a day with those multiple meals and snacks. I lost that 10 pounds and the rest has been slowly coming off. So I want to speed this up a little bit. So I don't want to speed it up too much because I have some concerns. One of which, I don't want to start losing lean mass while I lose my body fat. I know that's inevitable to a certain degree, but I want to minimize that. I have a history of gout. And though my gout hasn't bothered me in a long time, uric acid builds up in the bloodstream while the body's prioritizing ketones to flush out. The ketones always take priority over the uric acid in the body. So that will continue to back up. And I had kidney stones from that. So I want to try and prevent that from happening again at all costs. So if I go into ketosis too aggressively, that's what I'm worried about. So I have this sort of delicate balance I'm trying to maintain. I might tweak what I'm doing with berberine. That's always a possibility. If I do that, that'll help keep my blood sugar stable and keep my insulin more stable. But I'm a part of Kelly Hogan's coaching groups. And I really enjoyed being a member of these groups because you get a lot of feedback from Kelly. You get a lot of feedback from the members in these groups. One of the things Kelly's been talking about these last few weeks is changing your ratios. And for those people who have been doing carnivore, the classic advice is just keep doing it. Just persist. You're going to hit plateaus. Your body is healing. And that's what I've been doing for a long time. And I haven't been too worried whenever I've gone up a little bit or down a little bit with weight, or my weight loss is stalled, or I've hit a plateau. Because in that time frame, keep in mind, though I've been plateaued for the last number of months, I have lost inches on my waist. So I'm not too concerned, but I still want to tweak this as I go along. I want to try and find the best path for my weight loss and metabolic health. Kelly's been researching Dr. Boz, and Dr. Boz is big in the keto community. And her argument is if you still have relatively high or normal blood sugar, but you have no ketones, which has been my issue. I've been using a ketone breath monitor on and off for the last couple years, and my ketones are always extremely low. I started playing around with berberine, and that got me into ketosis sometimes. I started doing it with exercise. That got me into ketosis sometimes, but I still wasn't in aggressive ketosis ever. I was always in really low ketosis. She's saying that there's a ratio you want to hit between your ketones and your blood sugar. And you want to do a little math equation to try and divide that into a number that you're in aggressive ketosis. And one of the things she recommends for people in my situation who have a history of being obese from one degree to another for many years, for me, we're talking over 25 years, kind of closer to 30, almost all of my adult life, I've been overweight. Sometimes people in those situations have really, really stubborn insulin resistance. So though I lost 150 pounds so far, I'm at this point where my body's regulating and figuring everything out, and it's sort of plateauing as it's doing it. My insulin resistance is probably still around. So I want to tweak this that much more. So it's not easy right now with COVID to get in to see your doctor. So it's not like I can get this blood work checked, but I can manage this a little bit on my own in the meantime. What I'm going to do over the next few weeks is play around with this a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is start a new challenge come September. And in the meantime, I'm going to tweak around with these numbers and kind of get familiar with these new numbers I want to work towards, so that in September I can start strong. I'm going to start with my bod pod exam. I'm going to hopefully start with some blood work as well. It might not be right on time with September 1st, but I'm going to see what I can do. And I'm going to move forward with this 80-20 principle, but also no more than 4 ounces of meat at a time. That's what Dr. Boz apparently says for people who have this really stubborn insulin resistance. Some people may have to go down to 6 or 4 ounces of meat at a time. So I'm probably in that category with stubborn insulin resistance. I have no sugar in my diet. I don't cheat with a lick, taste, or bite. And I'm still dealing with a plateau with my weight loss. Not for a month or two. That's kind of normal. But after 8 months, there's something else going on. And my money's on hormones. My thyroid could be part of it because I do have hypothyroidism, but I would lean towards insulin with this. My thyroid feels pretty good. A lot of you people out there are thinking right now, start fasting, Bruno. Fasting's the way to go. You have to understand this. Fasting is not good for people who have hypothyroidism, which I have, as well as a history of gout, which I have. And I do not want to aggravate that because that interferes with your whole life. It's not fun to deal with, especially if it gives you kidney stones. So even though I was using a blood glucose monitor, I'm going to start using that again in the next month and figuring out how that works while measuring my ketones. So I'm going to be using the urination strips to measure that. And I'm also going to do the finger prick method for testing my blood glucose because Kelly Hogan was saying she finds that to be a more reliable number than the steady 24-hour blood glucose monitors you can put on the back of your arm. So I want to see for myself which one works better, and I'm going to go with the one that works better. So there's different ways to get into ketosis. Fasting is one of them. We already talked about that, and I'm not going to do that. The other way is weight training, exercise. Now, I prefer weight training, and for this reason, when people do keto, I find, in my experience from what I've seen, they often get kind of skinny fat. They lose a lot of lean mass as they lose weight. I've just seen it in my own observations. Now, that doesn't apply to everyone, of course, and I'm not trying to make this an insult for anyone who's lost a lot of weight doing keto. I think it's great. And sometimes you have to lose a little bit of lean mass as you're losing fat, but I want to minimize that. So I am going to be doing some weight-bearing exercises. Now, that does mess around with your blood sugar. I think it's something I'm going to make a habit of doing more in the morning while I have high blood sugar. The other thing, which I can implement very easily, is smaller portion sizes. So if I'm having 4 or 6 ounces of protein at a sitting and I have lots of fat with that, Dr. Boz apparently says you can have as much fat as you want. Don't worry about calories from fat. And I haven't worried about calories very much through my whole weight loss so far. That's the beauty of carnivore. What I'm going to do is wait 2.5 to 3 hours between meals so that my blood sugar stays more balanced, and hopefully I'll keep popping in and out of ketosis or stay in aggressive ketosis. So I'll be having just a small amount of protein frequently through the day. Keep in mind, I can't fast. So when everyone starts leaving comments about how I should start fasting, understand that's not an option for me. Even shortening my eating window down is a way to trigger gout, and I don't want to do that. I've been gout-free for 2.5 years. I don't want to bring it back on. I'm still on medication for gout. Now, I've lowered my medication for my gout, but I can still easily fall back into that. And I think that's heavily related to insulin resistance. So I want to make sure I try and sail through these waters as smoothly as possible. I don't want to aggravate any other problems as I try this higher fat, lower protein diet. It's going to be temporary. And if I lose too much lean mass, I'm going to tweak or abort what I'm doing. I don't want to lose a lot of lean mass. That's not good if you lose 30 pounds and 10 of it's lean mass. That's not good for anyone. So this is where I am right now. I'm figuring out the rules and the borders of where I'm going to be for my September 1st, maybe 3 or 4 month challenge. And I might tweak it along the way during that challenge, depending on my results with my monthly bod pod exams, measuring my lean mass and body fat percentage, as well with my blood sugar to ketone ratio and my portion sizes. If I find out I can have 6-ounce servings or 8-ounce servings of meat in a day and still have good weight loss, then I'm fine with that. Basically where I'm at right now is it's time to start getting a little more focused in the details of what I'm doing in a day and my weight loss, and to see if I can tweak this to speed up the weight loss end of things a little bit while trying to not lose my lean mass. So thanks for tuning into this video. Like I said before, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot and take care.